All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the State of the League, where I am taking a look at the upcoming NBA season through the lens of fans of different teams. I'm your host, Jack, aka Jokic Joestar, and today I have with me Cincinnati's finest, LeBron's strongest soldier, the league leader in Brandon Miller defense tweets, Matthew Sponhauer. How you doing today, Matt?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad to be here. I'm always glad to get the opportunity to talk about the Hornets, so I appreciate you having me on.
I mean, yeah, we need somebody to. I don't really hear that much about them in the media
No.
sphere these days. Beyond, they took Miller? What are they
Oh
doing?
my God. Granted, I was maybe on that train a little bit, but we can get into that later.
Yeah, I know. The bed's been made. You got to sleep in it now, so we'll be all right. Yeah. So I mean, hopping right into this, I just want to know, how do you feel about like where the Hornets are at as a franchise right now?
They probably have more hope than people would like to admit. It seems like you go through your record predictions. If you're the average person, you're like, well, somebody's got to be bad. You look out in the East and it's like, okay, the Pistons are probably going to be bad. But are the Pacers, is Orlando, a bunch of different teams. It's like, okay, well, the Hornets. The Hornets are the team that's going to stink. They'll be like the 14th seed. Perfect. And I can't really blame anybody for doing that because the Hornets pretty typically are bad, but they have a lot more upside next year than people think. This was a 43 win team not all that long ago. I mean, 2 seasons. And while, yeah, last year was a disaster, they're not getting any sort of benefit of the doubt with that at all. I mean, was there any way that season couldn't have been a disaster? I think every possible thing went wrong from the start of that offseason to the end of the year. You had LaMelo Ball missed a ton of time. You obviously didn't have Miles Bridges. Uh, you're super young. I mean, Hayward missed time, Rozier missed time. The no Hayward, no Rozier, no Bridges, no LaMelo Hornets.
That's disgusting.
It's
Those.
nasty, dude. And outside of them beating the Mavs at the end of the season, which was awesome, uh, it was a
Yeah,
tough to watch. It's probably the least Hornets I've watched in the last 5 years. I mean, there's only so many times I can do it to myself. I'll gladly admit. Uh, but I think you look at their roster and it's like they are what they are. They're young. If you believe in the guys that they have, and you believe that 43 win season was not a fluke, and that last year was a fluke, and you're a Mark Williams believer, you could easily consider the Hornets as a team vying for the playoffs in the East.
yeah. The more I looked at it, because I am not tapped into the Hornets, believe it or not, and I see them on TV, and I'm like, there's probably a better game on. And so I was like doing research, and I'm like, damn, they were like they're not a top team or anything, but 2 years ago they were a quality basketball team, and like just delving into everything that happened to result in those 27 wins last season, I am definitely one of those people who just assumed they were playing really bad basketball and kind of wrote off all of the injuries and things like that as like, oh well, what difference is Terry Rozier going to make? But yeah, when you like lay it all out like that, all of those guys being hurt at the same time, and then them falling back on like Dennis Smith Jr. and I mean PJ Washington, that's a real a silver lining to that stretch, I guess, is that he was really able to kind of come into his own in the last
Mm-hmm.
20, 25 games and get his numbers up a little bit. But beyond that, like you said, beating the Mavs, that stuck out to me. And that's really all I remember the Hornets for last season. I think that in addition, how do you feel about Michael Jordan being gone from like the front office situation?
I mean, it's been said a million times. It's probably a good thing. Uh, Jordan gets a lot of points for being active in the community. He obviously cares about Charlotte, but at the end of the day, the team building mindset that the Hornets have had since he took over the team is just not a winning one. The idea that we're going to make big pushes for, the first playoff spot and not go through proper rebuilds has been killing them forever. Now, granted, maybe he got away from that a little bit at the end of things, but we're a small market team. We really got to play the game here. You look at a team like Oklahoma City, they're able to do it. And I'm not asking us to go and necessarily be them. Uh, but
Just don't be
I
Hornets. Yeah, I mean that's like constantly rolling out. Like I remember they picked up Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier, and I was like, that's interesting. And those guys like have the capacity to be good, especially as like smaller contributors on a really competitive team. But like adding them was such a Michael Jordan move to me when it happened, where it's just like these guys, I know their names and they're pretty good, and that's like we're just trying to like sell tickets. It seems like a lot of the time.
Yeah, just rarely willing to actually go through the process of tanking. And I think some people are just getting like frustrated with tanking being such like a prevalent thing. It's like, oh, really? Does everyone need to tank? It's like, yeah, kind of, man. I'm sorry.
Not the Lakers,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, we're not the Lakers. And the Hornets do. They sort of pseudo tanked last year. I mean, they weren't. They were just bad, but it ended up working out that way.
Yeah, I don't know. If you can't get on board with the tank in Charlotte, I don't really know where you're going to be able to get on board with that with. I can't imagine a market like it's like Charlotte and Minnesota and Oklahoma City and San Antonio. It's these places that really have no hope of getting a guy in free agency. And Denver was like that for a while. I think Jokic has kind of altered the course of their franchise that way a little bit, where guys who are like deciding between somewhere that's really nice to live and like maybe Denver, they're like, oh, I get to go play with Jokic, maybe have a career year, something like that. Obviously, Charlotte doesn't have that kind of player, and there's no draw to go there. So yeah, when Michael Jordan was selling the team, I was like, this can only be good. And I don't know. I guess next season we'll really like start to see what new ownership looks like. And a lot of the time, new owners are really ready to get in and make big moves to try and be as competitive as possible early. But I hope Charlotte's owners are smart and like they sell the guys they need to sell, but they hold on to guys who have like long term value to the roster and everything.
Well, I think the current position of the team is that they, these are the dudes. This is the team. This is what we're going with. This is the core that's going to be what we do going forward. There is no like, oh, we're going to go from this spot and like continue to like try to be bad or try to like tank. We're just not set up to head in that direction. And we shouldn't need to. We had the third overall pick, we had the second overall pick. You need to be able to hit on those two guys to build a championship core, or at least a core that's, going to deliver the first series win that I'll be able to remember, or their first 7-game series win
Yeah.
ever.
That's insane. You poor guy. I
Yeah,
mean, damn.
it's bad, man. They're a bad team. They really
Being
are. They've been a bad
you get,
franchise.
you get all that like good Eastern Conference final stuff, but that is insane that you've never even in 7 games.
No, some 5-game series in the first round way back when. The last time they won a series, I was 1 years old. So it's it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I
Yeah,
believe.
and like coming through, I was doing prep work for a team like the Washington Wizards, and when I was like comparing those to my head, Charlotte, the Wizards don't even have anybody who they're like trying to move forward with a second or a third option into the future. Whereas like Charlotte, they have LaMelo Ball, they have Brandon Miller, they have a smattering of guys around them like a Mark Williams, like PJ Washington. And so I did want to ask you, do you feel comfortable that like the ceiling of that core is going to be like really competitive once they're all in stride together?
I think there's some potential for it. I'd say as it stands right now, like we don't have a number one on a championship team or anything, um, or a guy who projects to be that. LaMelo would obviously be okay. How good is he going to get? And right now, he's incredibly underrated. Um, I mean, oh my God, people think so lowly of him. Uh,
Yeah, I
and
saw a list where Austin Reeves was like 25 spots ahead of him or something like that. And I was like, dude, he's like a walking
yeah,
19.
yeah, I like Lamelo. There's some parts of his game he has to work on. Really, what it comes down to him for how good he's going to be is his finishing around the rim. If he could get to the point where he was actually a solid finisher and he's got the size to do it, then we're
He's
talking about a guy who maybe is, competing to be like a top 10 player in the world when he gets into his prime. Absolutely. But until I see that, I can't believe that it's going to happen because we're headed into year 4. Granted, he's only played about 2 seasons worth of games, and it takes a little bit longer for players to come along than people might realize, but I'm not going to go out when I'm making my predictions and be like, oh, well, LaMelo will be better at finishing. I know it. He obviously is going to get better in a way that maybe I'd look at like a Cade Cunningham and say, well, the shooting splits are probably going to get better,
Yeah. And it's weird because Lonzo really suffered with finishing at the rim too for a long time. And I mean, once he just kind of settled in before all this Stephen A. Smith knee stuff went down, once he like kind of just was like, I'm going to lock up the perimeter, I'm going to hit my open threes, and I'm going to like run a very sharp offense. I remember when people were trying to get him up to that all-star level, that was like the number one thing. And I have higher hopes for LaMelo doing it just because, like you said, he is very big. And I think especially you can count on him at least filling out his frame a little bit as like time goes on and he spends more time in the league, especially if he can put together like a 2-season stretch where he doesn't miss so many games and he's not like spending all his time rehabbing his ankle. He's now just like in the weight room giving 100% to like that kind of work and adding on muscle. I'm curious to see what he becomes, but I'm probably in the same boat as you where the team can be competitive with this core. I don't really know if the ceiling, even at like their absolute apex, you've hit on all these picks, is like a championship caliber young core compared to somebody like, I really like the Orlando Magic. I think Franz or Paolo could potentially turn into a guy like that. And so, yeah, in comparison, I don't really think Charlotte has guys of that caliber.
They are very good though. And the bar of best player on a championship team potential is an incredibly high one. I think LaMelo is very much a winning player. I think we'll see exactly what Miller turns into. I think it might take him a little while. But ultimately, my thoughts are if you want to be high on the Hornets, it's as simple as they still have a lot of very good offensive players. They have a lot of guys who can put the ball on the floor, a lot of guys who are good off the ball. And now they have a serious defensive center when they, won 43 games. They absolutely didn't. Mark Williams is incredibly, incredibly good. And that's another guy who I think is underrated. It was maybe clouded by the whole Duren situation, but I don't think Mitch Kupchak was necessarily wrong. I probably would have taken Duren, but Mitch is also very good. And what he brings to the team, I mean, down the stretch, the Hornets defense was fantastic. It was amazing.
Really good. It was shockingly good. Once I like looked at the numbers and everything, I was like, and they're doing this with such a skeleton crew again. It's very, I don't know if that's going to be the team's identity moving forward, but the fact that you have a guy capable of anchoring something like that, that's really good. So yeah, I was thinking of Mark Williams. That's like a sleeper late round fantasy pick for me. If he secures that starting job, I think he's like a maybe 12 and 10 a night kind of guy. He's really quality basketball player.
Yeah, and just his impact around the rim means everything. Going from him to Plumlee, or Plumlee to him, I mean, is a very big difference. Although Plumlee was playing some quality basketball last year, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it's just all about the ability to look forward to the future, and you can't really do that with Plumlee. You're like, this guy's probably, if he's not on the downswing already, he will be soon. Whereas, yeah, Williams is going to be good. All right. I want to get to question number 2. How do you feel about the offseason moves that the Hornets made this season? So, like, I don't know, re-signing, draft picks, free agency, if they picked anybody up really, or let anyone go, I suppose. How do you feel about all that?
I would have taken Scoot. That's the beginning and end of it. I mean, what else did they even really do? The Hornets are one of the least active teams as far as making moves goes. I know they have Rozier. I know they have Hayward. But, I mean, at this point, those guys have been Hornets for 4 or 5 years. Outside of that, it's LaMelo drafted, Bridges drafted, Miller drafted, P.J. Washington drafted. Both the centers draft. Like, it's all draft picks. It's all guys we got. I mean, that's just what we do. And Mitch is very good at finding guys late or at least getting quality basketball players. The rotation is not bad or anything. But it mostly just comes down to what we do in the draft for the Hornets. They didn't They didn't really go pick up some major backup point guard, which is the other position they could have filled out.
I was
And
surprised about that because did you expect them to hold on to Dennis Smith Jr.? I kind of liked what he showed at the end of last season when he got that little opportunity.
I did. I have mixed feelings about Dennis Smith Jr. He's an incredible defender, just a world class, one of the best in the league at his position. Absolutely no doubt about that. He is a guard who can't shoot, though, and it doesn't make up for it um, at the end of the day. For a team like the Hornets, they're probably fine with having a guy like that, but on a championship team, I just don't think you can have a dude at his position unable to shoot. The defense isn't worth the spacing. So I wasn't like crushed by it or anything. And it's not like the Hornets didn't try to get him back. He actually chose to go to Brooklyn.
I didn't realize that. Damn.
Yeah. Just for the better opportunity, I suppose, or what he thinks he
Now
can.
they got him and Ben Simmons
Now they have
passing the ball and not shooting. That's
now
sick.
they have him and Ben Simmons. But I wish him the best. I really liked him for the Hornets. I was pleasantly surprised how much he was able to contribute.
Definitely one of those guys you always root for, Dennis Smith Jr.
Oh, yeah.
With how it worked out in Dallas, him and I don't know, Luka coming in. Maybe he becomes the exact same player he is now, but damn, that had to just like brutalize his confidence. They're like, oh, okay, we've got like one of the future best player in the league taking all my minutes and shots now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not heartbroken that we lost him, and I don't think that I'm wishing him poorly or anything, or even say anything bad about Charlotte. But again, it really comes down to the Miller Scoot stuff, and they went with Miller. My problem is that I think Miller has a ceiling as an on-ball creator. I don't think he's some great athlete. I understand. Like the comp for him is Paul George, but less athletic. And that's not a bad player. I think he's going to be a good player. His shooting is really, really great. Defensively, he's very good. And to have a guy at his size with his skill set absolutely matters. He's, his handle is really, really nice. But is he the athlete, the advantage creator, or the passer that Scoot is? I think probably not. And to me, I'm willing to work through Scoot's shooting, because I'm willing to take the big swing on a pick this high, and B, because I don't even think it's that bad, to be completely honest with you. I think people are extrapolating a little bit too much from a very small 3-point sample size, and his mid-range shooting is good, and the jumper itself looks pretty solid. I was just excited to try to have two guys who can move the ball like LaMelo and Scoot on the same team. I thought that would have been special. Miller, I'm sure, will fit in, but is the on-ball creation going to be at the same level as Scoot's?
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. It shocked me because when I kind of imagined it in my head, Scoot and LaMelo, there's all this draft for fit with Brandon Miller. It's not like Scoot and LaMelo's skill sets clash that hard. Like the fact that the ball is going to be out of one of their hands is not ideal, but we already touched on it. LaMelo doesn't have that much of a game inside the 3-point line, whereas Scoot, that's what he loves to do, is get to the rim. And then you have, once the ball leaves one of their hands, it lands in the other, and then they can make an additional movement to a guy who's then going to be wide open. I don't know, just it seemed a lot more. It seemed like the ceiling was higher with those two. Even if you end up letting go of LaMelo or whatever, I think Scoot was the pick, and that sucks. But you got Brandon Miller now, so it is what it is.
What frustrates me about it is it's obviously a very much, the Hornets can do no right situation. It's almost, in fact, it was almost like the Kings with Jaden Ivey. They were screwed the second they got that fourth pick, because it's like, if they took Ivey, oh my God, you've done it again. You've taken another guard. And it's like, oh, LaMelo doesn't want to be here. He's not going to resign. Then he does. Oh, well, he's not going to fit with Scoot. And then we don't draft Scoot. And it's like, oh, well, he's actually not that good. He's the 84th best player in the league. But we couldn't use a second overall pick on the best player available either.
Yeah, no, I felt that way as well. Because looking forward, I am not going to be a part of the Brandon Miller hate train that is coming down the tracks. But good Lord, if he just has like an okay year next year, and God forbid Scoot comes into the league and like really hits his stride, it's going to be gnarly for the Hornets fans. Like, and I totally agree with you. It's not fair to do that, especially to him, like as a human being, as a person, to be like, I don't know, he had no control over that, and he's just getting decimated. And yeah, I think a lot of people are really waiting on him to fail next season.
Oh yeah. I try not to hate too much on Miller. Um, I don't want to make it any secret who I wanted. I'm not going to sit here and be like, yeah, no, I actually wanted him the whole time, guys. I swear. But yeah, if there's a world where Miller is inefficient his first season, in fact, I think it's like
It's
a
totally
99%
yeah.
certainty. Same with Scoot, but Miller's going to have a lot of pressure on him from day one. He'll be a good fit when he develops into the player that he can be. He'll be a really valuable guy, but is he going to be like a top 15, top 20 player in the world? I'm not so sure of that. And now you face a big problem where Miller and LaMelo both struggle with finishing around the rim. They're going to be a very heavy 3-point shooting team. And finishing around the rim is just going to be a tough struggle to have. I worry that that's maybe not as, like, I know they both can shoot, but I worry that's not as complimentary as people think. That's a very tough struggle to have.
Yeah, we can shoot, but we can't get to the rim. That's, I don't know. With all the obsession over the 3-point shot in recent years, a lot of people kind of just understate the value of layups. It's like easily the shot you need to be successful in the NBA. And so, I mean, if everybody's hitting their threes, I think the ceiling for the Hornets is like a good fighting for a playoff spot kind of team. But yeah, if it's like a down shooting year for a couple of guys, or like really off for LaMelo or Brandon Miller, it could get tough pretty quick. I'm not sure. So yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of balls up in the air with them, but Scoot was probably the pick. That stinks.
It does stink, and it stinks that, you have to hear all the crap about it, but I'm used to it. Nothing new, I'm afraid. More of the same. And I'm sure Scoot is guaranteed to turn into a next great player.
Oh yeah, Dame goes to Miami. Scoot's averaging like 27, 5 and 8 next
Yep,
year.
like it's the Kobe Bryant thing all over again. It's fine. It's it's just life,
Yeah, it just keeps coming, and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, dude. There's that great meme. Every NBA franchise like has a version of it where it's just the guy with their hat photoshopped onto him, and it's like, I keep giving you my strongest battles. How are you still alive from God? And yeah, Hornets fans definitely reminded me of that lately.
Yeah, and then you've got the whole, like, because Shea was in a Hornets hat on draft night. Truly one of the most evil things the NBA does that seems to disproportionately affect my team is, oh, we're trading this pick, but first we're going to put the other team's draft pick in your hat just to make sure that everybody knows who you missed out on. And of course, it's always going to be a great player
Shea
every
Gilchrist
time.
Alexander, yeah.
Right.
And didn't they move him to pick up Bridges?
Yeah, they did.
Holy shit. Talk about, yeah, that's tough.
Awesome. It's just, it doesn't get much more Hornets than that.
Yeah.
But I still think the team will be pretty good this year, kind of depending on what role Miller has. That's my biggest question, because Miller is not going to play winning basketball from day one. In fact, almost no rookie should ever be expected to play winning basketball from day one. Anthony Edwards, Darius Garland, Jordan Poole, all those guys were like some of the least efficient, least valuable players for like the first half of their first season. It's bad. It's you have to get through the bad shooting. Look at Cade Cunningham, look at Jalen Green, so on and so on and so on. It's normal. If Miller has a very big role, which, to be honest, he probably should. If we're going out there and we're saying, well, Miller's just going to be like this off-ball guy and he's not going to get his opportunities on the ball, it's like, well, then what were we doing with the second overall pick? right? Like that just can't be the strategy. But probably would cost us some wins.
Yeah, that kind of leads me into the next question is what are your so what's your gut expectation for next season? What would a disappointing season look like? And then what would be a surprise that would kind of lift you up, you know?
A disappointing season would be both the team does not make the play-ins and Brandon Miller does not look good. I can deal with Miller looking like he's going to turn into something good and giving him a bunch of opportunities, even if they're inefficient, if he looks good. And I can deal with Miller maybe not looking like the future, although that would still suck regardless. If the Hornets at least make the plans and are at least competitive and prove me right in some way. But a disappointing season would be like 34 wins. Miller was obviously the wrong pick. I think, though, there's some potential. Offense with pretty much these same players have been top 5. Defense is really great with Williams. A combination of that could get you to 40 wins. It really could.
Yeah, I have 2 bullets here. Surprisingly good would be 40 wins, everybody's healthy, and then just Miller question mark. And then disappointing is the 8th pick to the 10th pick, and Miller is ass while Scoot just goes off in Portland.
Yeah. And I tweeted out the other day, there's kind of 2 lines of thinking with them. You either believe that the Hornets are actually a 43-win team that sort of got fluked out last year that now has their biggest need in Mark Williams filled, or you believe that the Hornets are the Hornets and they will be bad. And, it just seems to be the 2 mindsets of thinking. I really do think they could be pretty darn good outside of the Miller, inefficiency stuff, which is going to come.
Yeah.
Because they don't really have a lot of major holes as a team.
When everyone's healthy.
When everyone's healthy, of course, everybody won't be healthy before this time. I'm sure we're getting 80 Gordon Hayward games this year. I just know it. He's due.
This is the one. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
This is the one. But I'd put my expectations right around 37 wins, 40 wins, to be completely honest with you. They should be good. They should be.
It's so tricky because there is in the East that weird. The whole play-in tournament in the East feels so, I don't know, gelatinous. Everything is very. You could sell me on any team being in any spot from 7 to 12 a lot of the time. I don't know how Indiana is going to look. You feel like the addition of somebody like Bruce Brown is going to make them a little bit more competitive and give them structure in the locker room, whatever they need, blah, blah, blah. But if they finally pull the trigger on Miles Turner and Buddy Hield, you're out of here. We're looking forward and we're okay with being a little bit worse this season if it means we're developing our younger guys the way that we want to. And I don't know, there's just a ton of stuff like that. And like you said, somebody does need to be bad. I just have no clue beyond Detroit who it's going to be.
Well, I don't disagree, but I'll be real with you. I'd be very disappointed if it's the Hornets. I think that's a failure. I do. It's oh well, they have Miller and they're young and you need to have reasonable expectations. Sure, but they need to be. I mean, this is a team that again won 43 games. They filled the need that they have. I'm okay with Miller being inefficient and that costing us some wins. But the idea that if they go win 33 games, it's well, that still beats the over on their win expectations, which by the way is 30 flat. I don't care. That's not good enough.
Money on that, damn. That's. I feel like they're smashing 30. I don't know.
I think so. I think so. How could this team possibly not be 3 games better than they were last year?
Do you think Brandon Miller starts game 1 next season?
No.
It's Gordon Hayward's spot?
I think. I know Clifford. No, he's not going to start. And that's fine. It might not even be Hayward starting. Damn. It might be LaMelo, Rozier, Bridges, PJ, Mark.
Oh, damn. I forget Bridges is coming back. Yeah. He was, I don't know. I feel bad because that's something that's just very Hornets to happen, completely out of the team's control and throws an enormous wrench into when it was LaMelo and Miles Bridges playing really well off each other, I was like, dude, I see the vision here. And then
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff happened, and I was like, well, okay, back to square one, pretty much.
Yep. I mean, just we'll see what happens going forward. Um, I'm not exactly sure what their game plan is. I don't think they really have one with him because he's only on the 1 year deal. But it's just it's an awful situation. It really sucks, dude. And they were kind of starting to be billed as like one of like the really likable, fun young teams, and they sort of lost that title entirely. And I think now you've got Bridges missing 10 games, and he's only on the 1 year deal. And I think there's a real chance he could be gone next off season. And
Oh yeah, I
um,
think I think he's probably because like he wanted either money from Charlotte or to be allowed to like go explore other teams, and they kind of just like gave him this 1 year to just like feel out the situation with him. I don't really think that made him very happy at all, which I mean, I don't really give a shit about the guy's happiness. That's pretty fucked up what he did, but it's just like from Charlotte's perspective in terms of like building a team, yeah, that's a tough asset to lose for nothing.
right, right. And it just puts us back a lot. And I thought the recovery from it could have been Scoot. I thought that they kind of got bailed, and I it really stinks that they didn't take him. Miller, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Miller will end up being better. Maybe the shooting never comes along for Scoot, and it's like a who knows situation. But as it stands right now,
It's
it's not
weird. I
great.
don't know. Like, I can't remember the last time the number one pick was talked about so little, just because it's 2 and 3 was so insanely polarizing. Like, you have this generational guy everybody freaked out and lost a million games for the past like 8, 9 months. And then the second summer league rolls around, we're like, oh my God, Brandon Miller missed 5 straight shots. It's the front page of ESPN.
Yeah, well, it doesn't help that it's the Hornets who took him. Like
Oh,
if you were making a media situation like this in a lab, you would have some guy who played bad in the tournament. You'd have the Hornets have the pick. You'd have the other guy they didn't take, who everybody liked more, be like a super exciting highlight reel, young, explosive guard. And then you'd have the Hornets, not take that guy. And that's how you would build it out. So I mean, there's reason to believe that this is all scripted. We're talking about like WWE stuff, and that the script writers just hate the Hornets. Um, but it's brutal, dude.
I mean, I'm here. I'm ready whenever the redemption arc for Charlotte rolls around. That's going to be legendary. That's going to be all time stuff.
Well, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is the more and more that people, shit on the Hornets and tell us that we're so bad, and tag me in some Scoot Henderson highlight and be like, "What were you thinking?" As if I'm Mitch Kupchak. The worse and worse I'm going to be when they actually end up being good. And the bar for how good they need to be for me to be annoying about it is so incredibly low. At some point in my life, they're going to win a playoff series. And when that happens, that fan base will never hear the end of it. I don't care if it's a first round series between two teams that aren't contending. It does not matter. It does not matter.
They're
So
getting duped.
be ready. Be
Yeah,
ready.
it's a lot like all the Kings fans this year. And I mean, even like they lost in the first round, phased nobody. It was like we're gonna lose to Steph. Who cares? We're in the playoffs. Yeah, I don't know. So I'll be very happy for you whenever that happens. When we're old and gray and wrinkly, just being like, oh,
And when I'm 90, I'll finally get it.
they'll win and you'll die a day later on top of the world.
That's gonna be awesome when they win and I die a day later. I'm really looking forward to that.
All right. My fourth question here, like in terms of mid-season trades close to the deadline, do you want or expect anything to go down?
Expect? No, they're not going to make a deadline move. Here's a hot take. They never do. Mitch Kupchak is one of the most passive general managers in the entire NBA.
Which is
Great.
insane. Like when you think about existing in Charlotte. I know I've hammered in like the small marketness of it all, but like How do you just watch every other team and what they're doing and be like, yeah, if I do nothing, it'll sort itself out?
They very much believe in not panicking, and a lot of the times, not panicking is a good thing. Teams actually do panic too much, and really, what being good comes down to is drafting. So it's not the end of the world, but I don't expect them to make a deadline move. Maybe I don't know. Maybe at some point they decide that the future is not, Hayward and Rozier as like two of their key guys. And maybe they realize that Bridges isn't going to come back. And if you're like, okay, we're going to lose Bridges, we don't want to lose him for nothing. This is our opportunity to open up. Maybe they trade Bridges. It's not impossible. But maybe what they say is, let's move Terry. And then this offseason will be off of Terry's money if we move him for an expiring, Hayward's money, and we're not paying Bridges, and we could have the cash to go make another move. Now, I don't expect them to do that because having money as the Charlotte Hornets in free agency doesn't matter.
It's worth very little.
It's worth very little. And this is why they haven't done it yet, and it's why I'm not really mad at them for not doing it. That's one route they could go, though. Or maybe, who knows, they could choose to move off of Terry's money regardless. Another move they could do is get a backup point guard. Who that would be, I don't know. Kind of depends on how things play out. But my guess would be is that they're not going to go spend anything serious on a backup point guard.
I don't know. I think Tyus Jones in Washington is a name to watch out for in terms of like point guards moving to the deadline next season. It's just that's a weird fit to have like a guy who everyone pretty unanimously is like, yeah, it's just like a good guy to have on a winning team to help establish like habits and things like that. And the Wizards are going to win 15 games next season.
Yeah, that's the team I forgot when I was talking about, the bottom of the Eastern Conference earlier. The problem is, though, is that the Hornets, Mitch Kupchak, values his second-round picks greatly. And he's not always wrong for that. He is pretty good at getting some stuff going on those. But outside of that, I don't expect them to do anything. I really don't. And maybe that's a lame answer, but it's what's been proven true time and time again. So that's what I'm sticking with.
It's not your fault that the Charlotte Hornets do lame things. You're just the messenger for these people. And so, that's unfortunate. I don't know. If you're good at hitting second round picks, it's cool. It's a great story. It definitely gives fans a little something extra to rally around when a guy's like a second rounder who's like really digging his heels in and finding a place in the league. But in terms of like moving them for stuff that can immediately help your franchise in a substantial way, I have never, ever understood that being like a sticking point. It's like, oh, my second rounders. I don't care. Let's like win games.
Yeah. And part of it is, just keeping the team cheap. That's what's nice about hitting on second rounders. But at some point, the Hornets aren't going to need to be so cheap. So, or hopefully that's their game plan, is to not be cheap forever, at least in terms of luxury tax. We'll see. Backup point guard's a position. They'll probably do something really minor if it's a disaster. But I honestly don't expect them to. Because, again, the team, for what it's worth, you can say they'll win 35 games, and I'm not going to sit here and shake my fist at you. But they don't have a ton of holes. The team is the team. Like, go through the lineup and you'll be like, okay, center, Mark Williams is the 1, Richards is 2. Then you got, all these wings. You got PJ and Miles and Hayward and Miller. And then the guards, hypothetically, should be Martin and Terry and LaMelo, and then whoever slots in at 4. Yeah,
that is theoretically, that's not a frustrating situation if it works out how.
If it works out. If it works out how it should, like it always does for the Hornets, it's gonna be special.
Yeah, but when stuff like that, when you're like, we have the pieces and they all fit together, and we've made right decisions and they just have not panned out. That stinks, and that's the way of the Charlotte Hornets a lot of the time. So I am sorry that is the team you've chosen. How did you become a Hornets fan?
I'm from South Carolina. So
okay.
I'm a big root for the teams in my local area.
Oh yeah, you're a Panthers fan too. I forgot
I'm a Panthers fan. I'm a Hornets fan. If I watched much hockey, I'd be a Hurricanes fan. Baseball, though, I'm Reds because Carolina doesn't have a team and the local team is in Atlanta, and it felt kind of wrong to root for them if I'm rooting against Atlanta in pretty much every other sport.
Makes sense. Ellie De La Cruz, he's fun. He's cool. He's
Ellie
exciting.
De La Cruz, I was at his debut, and I was
Damn.
at the game where he hit the cycle.
That must have been pretty exciting.
And it's I go to games. I live right by the stadium. But I went to his debut, and then the next game I went to, he hit the cycle. I just got really, really lucky. So
Hell yeah.
at least they're headed. The Reds are very much headed in the right direction, but I don't think anybody tuned in to hear about the Reds. So
No, sorry guys. Everybody wake up. We're back to basketball. I know nobody baseball, I don't know. I like it, but it puts a lot of people to sleep. So number 5, this is the last straight Hornets related question. Which player are you looking forward to see progress next season the most?
Mark Williams, why not? If he continues on the path that he's on defensively, the Hornets would be really good. Good interior defense is this maybe the second most important thing for a team, second or third. It's right up there, dude. It matters a lot. So if that really is what it could be, oh my God, they're going to be nice. Or I don't want to say, oh my God, they're going to be nice. I don't mean that. But I'd be really excited. I'm really excited to see if he can do it consistently again, and if he can impact defense the way he does again. So that's the number one player I'm excited for. I'm looking for LaMelo's finishing. I'm looking for Brandon Miller's finishing, and whether or not he is going to be able to consistently create advantages off the dribble. I would like to see maybe if another one of the young guys we have back, who knows, maybe JT Thor finally does something and puts it together. He's really talented, and he's always close but not quite there.
Yeah,
those are the big guys.
Time minutes, and you're just like, whoa, how's this guy not get in more? And then you don't see him for 8 games.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to Gordon Hayward's progression as a player. He's kind of a young guy who is still putting things in the right place, is still figuring out how to play winning basketball.
He was close.
He was close. So, yeah, mostly Hayward.
Hell yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, Charlotte. It's such a weird roster to have Rozier and Hayward situated on when there's so much just youth around them. You could have said a number of players in terms of he's really exciting, and then I don't know. The coach doesn't love playing young guys, does he?
Clifford probably gets a little bit too much hate for that. He's actually not as bad as people make him out to be. The Bouknight stuff has been a very big, why isn't Bouknight playing? But it's been kind of revealed that, he really can't be on the floor at all. And I honestly do not mind that they have Rozier and Hayward on this young team. Good. I like having guys who fit well and who make the offense actually work. If you took them off the team, oh my God, what would the depth look like? It'd be a disaster. So you have some dudes who are pretty competent on offense on there to make things run properly, and the offense is good because of it. That's fine by me, even if they aren't young, because we see, other teams around the league have a lot of talent, but they don't have those kind of connector pieces. And you've seen, the Pacers go out and try to get those connector pieces, or Orlando go out and try to get those connector pieces. So, yeah, maybe they're on big contracts and maybe they're a little bit older, but again, that's what's going to happen when you spend money in Charlotte. It's not going to be a great deal or anything. So, I don't mind it.
There's a tax for, it reminds me of Houston this offseason a little bit. They're copying your blueprint. They're taking Brooks and Van Vliet and kind of getting guys in there.
It's not the Brooks and Van Vliet stuff. Good Lord, it's not $40 million a year for Fred Van Vliet.
We have all this money. You don't have to spend it.
It's they backed themselves into a corner with that, I think, because when you're building a team, you bring in all the young guys, and if you want to spend money, you have to do it before their extensions start hitting. That's your window. And I wonder if they waited so long that it's like, well, we might as well spend it or we're going to lose it. So here's 40 million for Van Vliet and 20 million a year for Brooks. But also the other thing that really kills them is that those deals are long, 3 and 4 years.
It's a year too long on each easily. I would have been like the total money per year doesn't really intimidate me that much if you don't care about like I don't know winning a ton of games next season. But yeah, like you said, once extensions start hitting, you got to pay Green, Jabari Smith, Alperen Sengun, everybody all at the same time. That is losing one of those guys to employ Dylan Brooks would make me switch fan bases. That would be really nasty.
Oh yeah, and I'm not sure if that's how things are going to shake out. The salary cap's going to go up a ton by the time that happens.
Yeah.
But I probably wouldn't have signed either of those deals. I think they're pretty risky.
Well, you can thank God Charlotte didn't do that, I suppose.
Oh yeah. At least if the Hornets had done that, it would have been unbearable, like it usually is.
Yeah. All right. My last question for you is just straight up: which team do you think is winning the NBA title next season?
Well, I don't know who are the like tier 1 contenders. Denver, Milwaukee, Boston. I'll say the Lakers. Why not?
Hell yeah! There we
Hell
go.
yeah!
There's my.
they've Phoenix. But the Lakers have LeBron. Doesn't get much better than that. So the lame answer is it's going to be whichever one of those 5 teams stays the healthiest, almost certainly.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be lame, to be completely honest. If I had to pick one to stay the healthiest, it would probably be Denver now. Right? Like it probably would be. The Celtics, they're already dealing with Porzingis stuff. Brown and Tatum are pretty reliable. Obviously, anybody can get injured, but the older that you are and the more of a history you have, the riskier it gets. Milwaukee, very old at this point. Milwaukee is incredibly old. The Lakers, obviously, LeBron is very old and Anthony Davis has his injury problems. The Suns, their key players are very old. The Nuggets are the youngest. And while their guys have had injury problems, and it could be a problem again, I guess I'd go with them. I also think that in an even world, they're still the best team. So yeah, I'll say a loose Denver.
Yeah, it's tricky. There is no overwhelming. Everybody has pretty glaring flaws in terms of health, just with like somebody like Michael Porter Jr.'s back. But then, Boston, every big man they have is like, I don't trust to play 50 plus games, especially as Horford gets older. I feel like Milwaukee has been incredibly fortunate with the health of Brook Lopez year by year, and I'm not sure how sustainable that is, especially when you combine it with stuff like Chris Middleton. And then, the Lakers, if LeBron were to like miss a stretch of games to like commit healthy to the playoffs and they really got to just like let Austin Reeves cook, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I think Reeves is really going to come into his own as White Boy of the Year next season.
I really think the Lakers it's amazing how they've built everything back from the Westbrook disaster trade. And LeBron was definitely dealing with injury last year. So we'll see. It wouldn't shock me if he takes a ton of games off, but I'm guessing that other teams are probably going to do something similar.
Yeah. With Phoenix is scary just because if anybody gets like a serious injury there between Durant, Booker, or Beal, the other two are going to have to go nuclear just because if you're Phoenix, you don't want to enter the playoffs with giving away home court advantage or something like that. That's a recipe for disaster. So the regular season does matter for them a little bit more than other people. So I don't know. I'm also a loose Denver, probably a little bit tighter than you are just because of the bias. But go Nuggets, I suppose.
Yeah, it's hard for me to argue they're not the best team in basketball right now. And there's no reason to believe that they can't go back and do it again. But I'm usually pretty heavily picking chalk when it comes to my finals predictions.
Yeah, I'm very tentative anytime I do anything like that. I'm like, it could be Denver. We'll see.
I don't want to say anything unreasonable, but maybe it's my team.
Yeah, I don't know. You got Jokic. He's the most durable thing on the planet. And then you got guys who they showed last year they could be healthy. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. It should be a fun, exciting season. That's pretty much everything I got for you today. Do you have anything that you want to plug as far as like podcast content creation goes?
Oh, just follow me on Twitter at SpawnHourM. I'm also on TikTok at Spawn Hour, and I do a podcast called Stay Hot if you want to listen to that. Although, I warn you, it's pretty much only football stuff, which I talk about and do as well. But I appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It was awesome. Yeah, I will see everybody listening in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in.